Strachey, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I'd be honored. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right, it's great to see everybody again, actually in person.
Hey.
Yay. It's almost normal again. I'm Commissioner Pat Gerard. I'm your chair for this year, so bear with me. I haven't chaired here before. We do have a button here on your microphone if you want to speak. Just press your button and I will try to recognize you. I have a little thing here, a very little thing here that has names on it, and I'll try to remember to look at it once in a while. Okay. I'd like to welcome our new PSTA board members. And we have a few. We have, representing Pinellas County, we have two returning board members who haven't been here in a while. Ms. Renee Flowers and Kathleen Peters. Thank you for volunteering. From the city of Gulfport, we have Michael Friedovich. Welcome. And I will ask that everybody please wear their masks during the meeting. We have people that are very sensitive about that. Appreciate it. That means you, Michael. From the city of Dunedin, we welcome Jeff Gow, and from the city of St. Petersburg, we welcome Deborah Figg Sanders. On today's agenda, we have a presentation planned on ways that board members can get engaged with PSTA, because we do expect people to be engaged on committees and events, and but we will wait for Commissioner Long to arrive to start that. Okay. In the meantime, we'll start with public comment. Okay. Okay, great. What, is somebody trying to say something? Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. Now's the time for public comment on consent agenda items or items not on the agenda. The public can make comments both in person and by phone by calling 1-415-655-0022. And the meeting ID is 180-082-9443. Are there any members of the public in attendance in the lobby that would like to speak or on the phone?
There are no members of the public on the phone or in the lobby, and I can also confirm with Clarissa whether there have been public comments that have been written in. Clarissa, can you please confirm if we have written public comments?
There are no written public comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, like I said, we'll delay our PSTA board service presentation until Commissioner Long gets here. Let me see. Okay, so we're skipping to committee reports, right?
Actually, we have a second presentation.
Oh, okay, we have a second presentation. Sorry. It's Federal Department of Homeland Security's Transportation and Security, the TSA Gold Standard Award. I understand this is the third time PSTA has received this recognition. And Theo, PSTA's Safety and Security Director, will present the award. Theo?
Good morning. My name is Theo Beckermy-House. I'm the Superintendent of Safety, Security, and Training. And I'm honored and privileged to notify you that for the third consecutive time, the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority has been awarded the TSA Base Gold Standard Award from the Transportation Security Administration and Homeland Security. There are only 4 other agencies in the nation that have achieved 3 awards, and PSTA is the only agency in Florida to ever do so. The award is based on a TSA security assessment performed on site by TSA field officers and covers an extensive audit of our security practices, procedures, and security training. We would like to play a TSA video presentation of this award.
Greetings. My name is Kirk Skinner. I'm the Federal Security Director for Greater Tampa Bay Transportation Security Administration. I'm privileged today to be presenting in front of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority Board an award for the Baseline Assessment for Security Enhancement, or BASE, and this is the gold standard award from TSA. This is a voluntary security assessment of national mass transit passenger rail systems and is performed by TSA's transportation security inspectors. The assessment informs development of risk mitigation priorities and determines TSA allocations of resources. TSA recognizes agencies demonstrating a strong security program with the Gold Standard Award. Significantly, this is the third Gold Standard Award for the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. There are only 4 other agencies in the nation that have earned 3 Gold Standard Awards. And there's only 21 nationwide that have multiple awards. Significantly, and to your credit, Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority is the only organization in Florida that has 3 awards. You should have by this time in your possession this plaque, which hopefully you will find a place to hang along with the other 2. And you will have received by now a letter from the administrator of TSA, which I will read, if you will indulge me for a moment. This is to Mr. Brad Miller, Chief Executive Officer, Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. Dear Mr. Miller, congratulations on your Gold Standard Award. It gives me great pleasure to recognize the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority for implementing a strong security program, as evidenced by the high scores on your most recent Baseline Assessment for Security Enhancement, also known as BASE. The Transportation Security Administration developed BASE to support our strategic goals of increasing domain awareness, enhancing prevention and protection capabilities, and furthering response preparedness of transit systems nationwide. BASE is a comprehensive review of your security program focusing on 17 categories identified by the transit community as fundamental for a sound transit security system. Your system attained high scores across all categories. We consider this caliber performance as deserving of special attention. I commend you and your organization for the commitment and hard work this level of achievement requires, and I wish you continued success in maintaining these high standards of security. Sincerely, David P. Pekoski, Administrator. My apologies for not doing this in person. COVID-19 has changed the way that we all work, the way we all communicate. I'm hopeful that you will recognize the significance of this award. My compliance staff and I congratulate you once again on such a tremendous achievement. I look forward to having this opportunity again next year. I suspect that Pinellas County holds itself to a very high standard and that the authority will once again get a BASE award next year. I'm already predicting that. So once again, congratulations, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Congratulations.
So I would like to thank the board, our CEO, the leadership of PSTA, the safety, security, and training team, and all PSTA employees for their hard work and adherence to our safety and security procedures. And without everyone's discretion, this award would not be possible. And it is through everyone's hard work and perseverance that we excel as a great organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. In Commissioner Long's absence, I'll go ahead and give the Forward Pinellas report. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. The Forward Pinellas Board held a meeting on January 13th. Am I on? Yeah. The board approved comments on the FDOT draft tentative work program. Florida is facing a $1.4 billion deficit across the next 5 years. District 7 is projecting a deferral of $780 million in SIS funding, including I-275, the West Shore Interchange, and US 19. This is very disconcerting for the entire region, and we hope that stimulus dollars will be able to backfill some of that cut. 4 sidewalk and bike lane projects were added to the Transportation Alternatives Priority List: 118th Avenue in Pinellas Park, 28th Street in St. Petersburg, 46th Street North in Leelman, and 62nd Avenue South in St. Petersburg. Tomorrow, Forward Pinellas will be having a virtual site visit as part of its Federal Highway Administration quadrennial certification. PSGA staff participated in a video for the certification that illustrates our cooperative and collaborative relationship. The public is welcome to attend this meeting. A link is available on the Forward Pinellas website. On Friday, Forward Pinellas is holding a board workshop to discuss agency objectives and priorities for the coming year. The next Forward Pinellas board meeting will be held on February 10th at 1 p.m. And I'm going to ask PSTA's CFO, Debbie Leos, to cover the T-BARTA meeting, please.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I am also a staff resource to T-BARTA as their CFO, as well as the CFO for PSTA. T-BARTA had a board meeting on Friday, January 22nd at the Bradenton Area Convention Center. And unfortunately, no actions were taken due to a lack of a quorum. We did have 2 presentations. The first one was by Chris Jadek of T-BARTA, who presented on TD Tampa Bay. T-BARTA is working on a partnership with USERV to provide regional county-to-county transportation disadvantaged, better known as TD service. In addition, this will also provide off-hour transportation within counties during evenings and weekends when local TD services are not offered. The second presentation was by Scott Pringle of WSP on the regional rapid transit. T-BARTA has now reached their 3rd major milestone on the project, and they have identified the locally preferred alternative. This includes a dedicated freeway, BRT lanes, except across the Howard Franklin Bridge, where express lanes would be utilized. Station design prototype options were also identified. The median cost for this project is $353 million for the entire 41-mile corridor. It is to be done in 3 phases. Phase 1 includes State Route 54 to downtown Tampa. Phase 2 includes downtown Tampa to West Shore. And Phase 3 includes West Shore to downtown St. Petersburg. This phasing strategy aligns with the current TB Next program schedule. Our next step includes completing a NEPA and defining an operating plan and costs. Our next board meeting for T-BARTA is scheduled for February 19, 2021, 10 a.m. right here at the PSTA boardroom. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anybody feel the need to pull anything? Feel the need to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then. Okay. Did you get that, clerk? Commissioner Peters and Commissioner Flowers. Okay. All right, all in favor say aye then. Aye. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, back up. We're using the voting system again. So could you please pull up the voting system? Alrighty. Okay. I have to figure out what I'm doing here.
Making good progress.
Okay, I'm a yes. I didn't. Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, sorry, I think you need to make sure you have joined the meeting. Okay. All right. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Let's go to action items. PSTA's Sustainable Strategic Plan. Heather Sobish and Nicole Dufka.
Well, yes, I'm going to go ahead and introduce them, Chair. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see all of our board members here. Last summer, when we were on Zoom and we started the idea of developing a sustainability plan, it was more of a traditional, maybe what you would normally know as, you know, an environmentally green kind of idea on coming up with a list of things that PSTA could do to be more environmentally sustainable. But now, as we're presenting the final product to you, which is in your packet, it's such a comprehensive plan that really involved all aspects of the organization and all departments. You're going to hear from the planning department who kind of led it today, but it really involved everything from maintenance to the way we run our buses and all sorts of things. We're now converting this into our strategic plan for the organization, and will help guide all of the aspects of what we do. So it's now a sustainable strategic plan. And to present that will be our Chief Development Officer, who you'll get to know, Cassandra Borchers, and her team, our planning director, Heather Sobush, and our planner who led this effort in developing this plan over the last 6 months, Nicole Dufa. So Cassandra, take it away.
Thank you very much, Brad, and good morning to board members. All of the staff will be delighted when we can return to the building and see you in person and meet all of you, new members as well as returning members. Thank you very much for the introduction, and I am very excited to present this to you today. You may recall that just before the pandemic, the board did approve a task work order for a consultant to help us put together a sustainability plan. But as Brad mentioned, as we got into it, we found that this led us to discovering a lot more about our own agency and about our national transit initiatives that were happening across the country. Next slide, please. I don't expect you to read this, but if you'd like to take a look at our previous strategic plan, the path forward, it is right in front of you, should be, if you're at the dais, I know that's taped in front of you. But this path forward plan was developed in 2015 as our guiding document at the time. And it really spoke to where the agency was at the moment. And we've taken all of these areas of responsibility and commitment of the agency and put them into action. Next slide. As we move forward beyond the Path Forward plan, we've opened up new programs and created new ways to monitor and evaluate what the agency does. One of the things that you'll see if you're new to the board, or that you've seen if you're returning to the board, is our performance count scorecard. And this is how we do monitor how we're doing in different aspects of the agency performance, but it doesn't necessarily guide the way that we make future decisions. You will also recall that we achieved the silver level of sustainability from the American Public Transportation Association as demonstrating our commitment to sustainability when it comes to the environment. But we've also been talking about how do we make our organization sustainable from a people aspect through workforce development programs like Leadership PSTA, again, a nationally recognized program for how we look at sustainability across our skill sets. Next slide, please. As we developed the Sustainable Strategic Plan, we looked at this in 3 ways. One was to look externally at what some national best practices across the nation are currently underway. We looked at large systems like LA, Atlanta, And we also looked at some smaller systems like Jacksonville and Rochester, New York, just to see what they were doing with regard to sustainability. We also took a look internally at what each department was doing and engaged our internal leaders in a discussion of their current projects and their future vision of how they could make their own departments more sustainable. And lastly, how we would monitor and evaluate our progress in sustainability. Next slide, please. This all is wrapped up in what we're calling the triple bottom line, which forms the foundation of this new sustainable strategic plan. You'll hear from Nicole Dufa, who's our project planner, and Heather Sobush, our director of planning, on each one of these aspects and how they're integrated into our new strategic plan and how we will look at projects as we move forward over the coming years. Nicole?
Hello, Chair Gerard and board members. This plan development has been a very fun project. I'm excited to be here discussing this brief overview of the content of the plan with you. As Cassandra described, our plan focused on the triple bottom line approach to sustainability. Within each of these sections, we included a list of projects and goals, both current and aspirational, in the short and long term. First, when we think of social sustainability, we're thinking of the health of our community and our workforce. There are 6 different areas that we highlighted in this section of the plan. One being the health of our community in terms of resilient strategies, such as our active participation in the Pinellas County Emergency Operations Center during emergencies like hurricanes, as well as promoting the safety and security for our riders and employees, as we demonstrated in PSTA's swift COVID response, where we've kept operator and staff COVID-19 rates low compared to other transit agencies. Next slide, please. In addition, other aspects of our healthy communities and healthy workforce emphasis under social sustainability, we included projects and goals such as prioritizing diversity and inclusion with the development of our internal Diversity and Inclusion Leadership Council, as well as our goal to increase the number of minority-owned businesses, also known as disadvantaged business enterprises, that we partner with for capital projects throughout the agency. We also want to continue to emphasize our community engagement activities. For example, our partnership with Feeding Tampa Bay, where we provided mobile food pantries to our riders, or even our new participation in the St. Pete Food Council that Brad Miller is spearheading and that Councilwoman Driscoll has helped get off the ground. In our plan, we're also identifying areas to improve our customer service for the benefit of our riders, as well as formalizing and expanding our internal training and wellness initiatives, like our professional development curriculum through Leadership PSTA, as well as the internal health and wellness program where we plan things like exercise challenges through Fitbit to engage our staff in walking and being more active. Next slide, please. PSTA's approach toward economic sustainability in this plan is grouped into 4 areas where we see being green meets green. For example, improving our ridership and mobility, where our innovative mobility initiatives have gained national attention, like our first mile, last mile program, Direct Connect, or even our newest AV pilot demonstration called our Autonomous Vehicle Advantage down in St. Pete. Improving our operating expense performance is also very important to us to ensure that PSTA has financial stability and sustainability for our operations in the long run. We want to establish policies and procedures where we incorporate social, economic, and/or environmentally sustainable principles and requirements into all agency procurements, from supplies to contracted services. And we also are thinking about how our capital projects promote economic development and improve access to jobs and resources, like we anticipate with the new Sunrunner bus rapid transit route, or even the upcoming design and construction of a new downtown Clearwater intermodal center. We've been repeating the same message of a triple bottom line throughout this plan, and how sustainability in both the social and economic areas are just as important as the environmental initiatives that Heather will be discussing next. Heather?
Next slide. Yes, thank you, Nicole. And no sustainability plan would be complete without a full environmental component. And so in this regard, we're focusing on emissions, energy, water, and waste. So first and foremost, one of the most important environmental things that PSTA does is provide public transportation service that gives people an alternative to driving a car. And we are helping to make this choice even cleaner by adding more hybrid and electric buses to our fleet. We currently have 88 hybrid buses and 2 electric vehicles in service, with 4 more to be put in service soon. In terms of energy use, we're planning a major solar project. And so this image that you see here on the slide shows our campus and solar proposal for the rooftops and potentially a carport. And so that would help offset our energy demand on campus. And then we've also been in the process of replacing all of our lighting with LED lighting, including not just at our campus, but also at our major transfer facilities like Park Street and Grand Central, with the added benefit of improving safety. Next slide, please. To reduce water demand, we are investing in a new, more efficient bus wash that will reuse and recycle even more water than our outdated bus wash that we have today. And then on the waste front, we recently, in the last few years, implemented a employee recycling program on campus, and we have plans to expand that to riders at our transfer facilities. We also are looking at doing a pilot to address food waste on campus by doing a pilot composting project. Next slide, please. And then in practice, the Sustainable Strategic Plan will guide our decision-making for operations, planning, and capital programming. The project, the consultant-led project, includes a data reporting tool that will help us measure the environmental indicators. And then we also have our PSTA's performance count scorecard, which captures progress in a lot of these social and financial sustainability areas. And then finally, there is an external recognition program offered by the American Public Transportation Association. It was mentioned already that we're at the silver level, and that we are looking to move toward gold, and we will get there by improving on the environmental indicators and achieving new goals in the social and financial areas of sustainability. Next slide, please. And so today, this is an action item for you to hopefully adopt the PSTA Sustainable Strategic Plan. And then once the plan is adopted, one of the first major accomplishments that will be put in place will be the addition of these additional 4 electric buses that will soon be put into service. And then down here at the bottom of the slide, you'll see an invitation for the unveiling of the new electric buses next Monday at 10 a.m. At the PSTA headquarters. So I will turn this back over to the chair for any questions and for action on this item. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about the plan? Comments? Yes, Commissioner Schulman.
There you go. All right, thank you. One quick question. When we review at the committee level or at the board level, programs, projects, other items, we're given a fiscal impact statement. Is there going to be a strategic plan impact statement for each one of those so we can see how each of our decisions are integrating into the strategic plan?
That is a really great question and an excellent suggestion. We are working right now on all aspects of how we will integrate the strategic sustainability, the sustainability plan into what we do. And every decision that we'll be making at the capital investment program will include which goals from the strategic plan are achieved by new projects. And so I think that'd be a great addition to the board information as well, is which goals will these be addressing. And so we'll be incorporating that. Great idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And Madam Chair, on behalf of the Planning Committee that reviewed the strategic plan summary at our last meeting and approved it unanimously, I move that we approve it here at the board level.
A second.
Okay, thank you. We have another comment, though. I just turned you off, I think. Commissioner Driscoll. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Heather and Nicole, for the presentation, and the whole team. This is just a fantastic plan that really outlines how the service that we provide to the community goes beyond the bus. And that's extremely important because so many of our riders depend on the bus, and they have other ways, not just transportation disadvantage, but other ways that they are in need as well. And through initiatives like the ones that were outlined here today, we're really helping to create more of a network of support for many of those riders, and that's something that I'm incredibly proud of. We also seem to be leading the state of Florida in our environmental stewardship and the innovations that we're putting forward through electric buses and other initiatives. So it makes me all the more proud to be part of this board and to have Brad and the entire team working for the community in this respect. So I'll be very happy to vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under your diversity and inclusion component, under the 4 tenets that you have here, when you're doing your scorecard, is there any way that you could perhaps detail out or bullet out that diversity and inclusion component and the impact that it may have on ridership?
Yes, we can take a look at that. We'll be looking at how to integrate this plan into the scorecard as our next step. And so you'll see that over the next few months at your board meetings.
Thank you so much.
Most of what we're doing for diversity and inclusion has been internal to date, but we are very sensitive to the issue and are making strides both internally and within the community.
Thank you. I think that'll go a long way, especially when we're talking about potential partnerships with larger corporations trying to get their employees to utilize public transportation to take some cars off the road. And then having that data, I think, will help really sell the impact to those potential organizations that maybe they would even partner with us in providing, some of those ridership costs. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, great. Okay, we have anybody else? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Schulman, second from Commissioner Saraki. Do we have any public comments? Sorry.
We have no public comment on the line right now, and I do not see anybody in the lobby. Clarissa, can you confirm there's no written public comment on this particular agenda item?
There are no written public comments.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right then, all in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind, we're not doing that. Please press your yes button or no button, whichever you prefer. All right. Is that everyone? Okay, I don't
Close, we
remember
are
how many
missing
we
one.
are. All
There
right.
we go.
I think that's everyone. Thank you.
Good.
All right. Okay, next item is the Gillig bus contract.
Chair, maybe I could introduce this one too.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and introduce this one because I wanted to highlight, thank you all for supporting the sustainable strategic plan. All along, I'm always very excited about items that are coming up when we get to buy new buses. As you might have known, I was a bus for Halloween, not once but twice when I was a kid, so I love buses. But
Do you
It's
have any
all-
pictures of that, Brad?
I do have a
I'd like to see
picture of that.
I'd like to see that.
When you think about sustainability, I always get a little bit, I don't know, I think I'm the only person in the world that feels this way, but I say, it's great to have an electric zero emission bus, I love it, but it's also just great to all of the buses we have, because as Nicole and Cassandra and Heather said, the number one thing that PSTA does from a community perspective is providing people with an alternative to driving their car. And this comprehensive idea of looking at sustainability in a comprehensive way, I think covers that. Like, as Commissioner Flowers said, one of the key ways is to get people who don't have a car to get to jobs. And that is sustainable for our community. So I think I'm excited to present this next item, because I think the electric buses, the zero emission buses are sort of a very, like the front porch, they show PSTA, people what sustainability really means, while we all know that it means a lot more than that to the organization. I was happy to have an editorial in the Tampa Bay Times that appeared this morning, if you saw the paper this morning, that kind of lays that out, that sustainability is more, it is the electric buses, but it's more than the electric buses. We are always applying for federal grants, and every once in a while we win one, and we won one recently for electric vehicles. That's the other thing about electric buses. More and more of the money in the federal government is being only for electric vehicles, so that's why we're getting some more. So I will now pass it on to explain how we're going to buy these buses to Henry Lukasik and Al Burns, our procurement director. Henry.
Thank you, Brad. Good morning, members of the board. Yes, so as Brad mentioned, this actually marks the third time I've had the pleasure to come before the board in as many years and inform that we have been successful in receiving yet another federal grant award from the Federal Transit Administration, the FTA, this time under their Bus and Bus Facilities program, which was specifically for purchase of buses and related equipment, dealing with technological innovations in low or no emission vehicles. The basis of our application is going to be a 240-foot all-electric Gillig buses this time. Before we go any further, I'd like to give a real quick history of how many buses that we have in our fleet right now. I believe there's a couple of slides coming up. So present day right now, we have two 35-foot BYD all-electric buses on the road in service. They are performing very well. Next slide. We have just taken delivery this past December of another 4 BYD 35-footers. Those are being turned around, getting ready for service, fare boxes, and some last-minute checks. And we hope to have those on the road in the next month or so. With this approval to purchase 2 more electric buses, next slide please, being Gillig buses, this will take our total fleet count to 8 total all-electric buses. We hope to expect to receive these 2 buses in 2022, as it takes about 12 to 14 months to build a transit bus. When we order when we order any transit bus at PSTA, we order them turnkey from the manufacturer, turnkey being a term that means that all of the requirements, the technological components, hardware is installed at the factory. So that includes camera systems, passenger counters, radios, Wi-Fi, so on and so forth. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Al Burns to talk about the solicitation method for this project.
Henry. Good morning, Madam Chair. Al Burns, Director of Procurement. At PSTA, we're always looking for innovative ways to procure and continuously improving the procurement process. With that said, this time we took a different approach, and we utilized the State of Virginia Division of Purchasing and Supply contract for this procurement. We assured that it complied with all FTA requirements of the purchase of rolling stock equipment. As Henry said, these buses are manufactured from Gillig. Even though we have a long-standing relationship with Gillig, we still performed a responsibility check, and we determined that Gillig has the capacity to perform the work and therefore are eligible for award. I'll turn it back over to Henry for the fiscal impact. Henry?
Thank you, Al. In your packets, you will see a breakdown of the costs associated with this project. The first part of the recommendation will be to approve a contract with Gillig for the purchase of 2 buses and the charging equipment required for them in an amount not to exceed $2,286,000. The other pieces to the project will be construction and installation of the plug-in chargers here at PSTA for $100,000. And with any federal grant, there is the customary required audits and inspections and other services for $10,000. So the total not to exceed project will be $2.4 million. A couple of things I'd like to mention is that why did we choose Gillig? A couple of reasons. One, our contract with BYD has come to an end. It was a 5-year contract. So that has come to conclusion. Number two, and probably most importantly, is that 95% of our heavy-duty transit bus fleet is Gillig. So we have a history with Gillig. Most of our fleet is Gillig, so it'll make integration into the fleet that much more seamless. One other thing I'd like to point out is that when it comes to the plug-in chargers, the chargers that we have for our existing BYD all-electric buses will not work with the Gillig buses. That's why we need to purchase 2 special depot chargers for the Gillig buses. And that's all included in the project costs. I would like to point out that on Monday, there will be an electric bus event, which will be February 1st at 10 a.m. And we welcome everybody to come by and view our current fleet of 6 all-electric buses at that event. Finance Committee reviewed this item and is recommending approval. And at this point, I'd be happy to, Al and I would be happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Yes, Commissioner Cox. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Albritton was first.
Okay. Am I on?
Vince is on, yeah.
All right, good morning.
There you go.
And Henry, I have a question for you. The current electric buses we have are 35 feet, and these are 40. So will we get additional seating on them?
Absolutely. We will probably gain about 10 more seats on a 40-foot bus. And being that it is a larger bus, it will also be able to have more onboard battery storage capacity, which will mean greater range. If you're looking for some specific numbers, our 35-foot buses have about 307 kilowatt hours, which is good for 180 miles. And with the new 40-footers, it will have 518 kilowatt hours on board, which is about 220 miles. So about 20% more range with that increased capacity.
All right, and this will probably be the way we go forward, correct, with the Gillig electric buses?
Yeah, we're going to look for the best manufacturer that we have for electric buses. Gillig is a great manufacturer, and not to plug the PSTA procurement department, but PSTA will be leading a statewide RFP, state schedule RFP for the purchase of all electric buses, which should include many different manufacturers to choose from.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Albritton.
Thank you. I regret that I won't be able to be here Monday. I have a council work session. I would love to be here to support this. But Henry, I've got a question on these new buses. Are the security devices for the drivers installed by Gillig, or is that something that's additional that after they come in that we put on?
They will be installed by Gillig as part of the purchase price of the bus.
Great. Thank you very much.
Hey, Commissioner James Robinson.
Thank you. Forgive me, some of these questions might have been answered at some point, but I'm obviously fairly new. So first of all, I want to make sure that everybody's aware that I'm a huge fan of this, moving to electric in the city of Largo. We've made it a policy to move our entire fleet to electric or hybrid where possible, and are absolutely doing a great job moving in that direction. So, but my question is, on the cost of the electric versus the diesel or current diesel, what is that difference? Is the electric more right now? And if so, how do you see that moving forward as far as that cost relationship?
So right now, the cost of an all-electric bus is more expensive. Right now, I'd say it's probably approximately $200,000 more. However, when we receive these grant awards from FTA, essentially the way the funding breaks out is that PSTA is really just paying for the cost of a diesel bus. So for us at PSTA, if we were to order a diesel 40-foot bus, it would be approximately $650,000, all things included. The grant comes in and picks up the incremental cost increase for an all-electric bus. So basically, PSTA is paying for the equivalent of 2 diesel buses, and the grant award covers that extra additional cost to make them all electric.
Great. And do you see that cost coming down as you know, the technology continues to improve and the cost of that technology gets better? I'm assuming that, you know, that's going to come down in relation to probably closer to a diesel vehicle?
I would say absolutely, Commissioner. I mean, I can recall 15 years ago seeing the first version of an all-electric bus. It had 1 mile of range, and the cost was $1.8 million per bus. So, I mean, just over the last decade, we've seen prices come down as the interest and the acceptance of these vehicles become more mainstream. And if the personal automotive market is any indicator, I mean, we can all remember when the first Toyota Prius came out, it was $70,000, and now it's very comparable to a sedan that you can get anywhere.
And maintenance, and maybe I'm mistaken here as well, but you know, I know in Largo, you know, one of the main cost benefits to go into some electric or hybrid vehicles is the maintenance cost, because there's not as much some of the maintenance that has to be done on gas vehicles does not have to be done on the electric vehicles. Is that the same case here?
Yes, you would be correct. You know, minus a combustion engine, anything that does not have a moving part to it, an engine which requires fluids and fuels, you're going to recover those as cost savings. Certainly we see quite a bit of savings without using fuel and without using fluids.
Great.
And electric is certainly the way to go from a maintenance standpoint.
Absolutely. Thank you. And just, if I may, Chair, one last question. The charging systems, you said that from our current brand or manufacturer to the Gillig is different. Moving forward, is there going to be some sort of universal, I guess, charging system? And I know that there's a plan to move to a different type of charging system. I think some sort of drive-over system in the future. But until we get to that point, is there any way that we can have some sort of universal system, or are they doing that intentionally? You know, for
Great question. I'll answer your second question first, which is a drive-over system. So PSTA does have such a system. It is an inductive wireless system. It's installed at what we refer to as our lay-by, which is the passenger hub just outside our main offices here. It's a 250 kilowatt system. And both types of buses, both our BYDs and our future Gilligs, will be able to use that system, being that it's inductive. The plugins, the answer to that question is absolutely. Right now, with all electric buses, there kind of is this hurdle where different manufacturers of buses have different types of chargers, and it's actually an impediment to the increased usage of these buses in any fleet, certainly from a mixed standpoint. There is a major push in the industry, both from the manufacturers of the buses and the end user, that would be us, the transit authorities, to come up with a universal charging standard. Society of Automotive Engineers has actually adopted such a standard for high voltage charging systems. Basically, I would say, from what I've seen, within the next 5 years, we are going to see what you could say is a universal plug that would go in any vehicle, anecdotally, like regardless of what gas-powered automobile you drive, you can go to any gas station and the nozzle will fit in your car. So yes, the answer to your question is yes and yes.
Thank you very much, and that's all I had, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to point out for the people that are new, all of the electric buses that we purchased so far have been with federal funds, and the next two will be as well?
Yes.
Okay. Which were only, which you could only use for electric buses.
That's great.
Commissioner Friedovich.
Privilege. Two questions. First of all, do we have actually, are we thinking about processing a few smaller buses as well? I mean, in Gulfport, for instance, a 40-foot bus takes up a lot of space on our small roads. So are we looking at doing smaller buses as well that are electric?
Whenever we purchase buses, if I understand the question, whenever we purchase buses, we're looking at basically what they're going to be used for. So our entire fleet has various sizes of buses, 28-footers for some of our light transportation use. We have some 35-footers and some 40-footers. If you're referring to vehicles that are in the medium-duty class, such as cutaways or maybe the 12-passenger vehicles, I know that there are vehicles out there that are currently being manufactured. They really haven't hit the market per se, not a lot of data on those, but what I can say is whenever we go out and purchase buses, we're always looking, one, to replace our older buses first with newer vehicles, and two, making sure that they're the right buses, the right size for the right routes that we're going to be putting them on.
Thank you. I've got one more question. Do they make, or have we looked into solar panel buses as well?
Interesting you should ask that question. Maintenance department has been installing solar panels on some of our buses, not for the purposes of using the sun as a propulsion method, but basically using the sun to keep the 12-volt and 24-volt electrical batteries that are on each of these buses charged up when they're not running, more or less extending the life of the house batteries, as we call them. I have heard that there is some interest, and some larger transit systems have taken the entire rooftop of a transit bus and just installed solar panels on them, more or less to help try and maintain the electrical systems on what I refer to as legacy vehicles, those vehicles that have alternators and generators on them, not specifically for using them to recharge high voltage electric systems or as a propulsion means. But it's a great question, and it's probably something that more information will come out soon as more transit systems look at that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Al. When we first started with the purchase of electric buses, there was some concern as to how the buses would perform, their return charge, would they be able to make it through the day? Can you share just what our experience has been with the current electric bus fleet?
Yes, so in short, which Commissioner Schulman I can't do, is short answers. But I'll try to be brief. The current buses are doing exactly what the manufacturers stated they would do. When we reviewed the specifications for the BYDs we had, they conservatively estimated that we would get 180 miles of range on approximately, or about 13 hours of usage. On electric buses, there's a mileage and time component, kind of an and or. We have achieved those benchmarks for the bus. So it is doing what it is supposed to do. In some cases, since we've added the inductive system out at the lay-by, we've managed to squeeze out about 10 or 20 more miles due to the fact that while in service, the bus can lay over and charge and pick up some extra miles. In terms of staying out there all day, the answer to your question in short is no, the bus will not stay out there all day, being 14 to 20 hours of service, if that's what a particular route consists of from start to finish. Typically, we could get basically 8 or 10 hours out of service out there, so we are getting close. Battery electric buses are getting closer each year to becoming comparable to what the range is on a traditional fossil fuel vehicle, that being an industry average of approximately 350 miles on a tank of diesel fuel or tank of CNG. I hope that answered your question.
It does, although it led to another one. So the other question that just came up then was, our existing diesel and hybrid buses, are they able to stay out for that 14 to 20 hour time frame? Or are they brought back in a
No,
shorter
they,
time?
they are.
Okay.
They are.
And then a final question I had before was, we talk about maintenance and the lower cost of maintenance, but what I wonder is the ratio between battery life and bus life. So can you share how long we expect these buses to be around and how long we expect the batteries that are there to last as well?
Great question. By FTA standards, the tried and true life expectancy that we're required to have them in service is 12 years, 500,000 miles. Typically, by the time PSTA retires their buses, it's closer to 13 or 14 years and or 800, 900,000 miles. With our BYD buses, when we purchased them, the warranty was for 12 years, 500,000 miles on the batteries. BYD was very confident in their battery technology that in reality, their batteries had a life expectancy of 26 years. So it was more or less a half-life as to what we are doing with it. We have actually, and in our Gillig buses, we're going to assume the same thing. The life expectancy of a battery is essentially dependent upon what its application is. And fortunately here in Pinellas County on our routes, what we call duty cycle, we don't have hills, we don't have cold climates. We don't have a lot of the stresses and strains that some of our other transit agencies across the country are seeing: climate, environment, hills, terrain, that put a lot of excess strain and stresses on battery systems. All that basically means is that our life expectancy on our batteries, on our buses, is actually going to be longer. It's going to be longer than some of our other colleagues in the country. And when I say longer, I would say that comparatively to some of those other transit agencies that have those situations, they'll probably get maybe 5 to 6 years out of a set of batteries before they're going to need to be overhauled or completely replaced. And we're seeing about anywhere between 8 to 10 years. And even then, due to our fleet maintenance department and the high level of training that they have with high voltage electric systems, including batteries, we don't actually have to replace the batteries as a complete unit. We can go in and overhaul them down at the cell level. So we're saving money there too.
Henry, thank you. I appreciate that. And Madam Chair, on behalf of the Finance Committee, we bring this forward for approval as we discussed it and passed it unanimously last week.
Okay, thank you. Any
Madam
other?
Chair, I second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Did you get that? Okay, please open the voting system. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any public comment on this? Sorry. Do we have anybody who would like to comment?
Larissa, can you confirm that there's no written public comment? We are going to be checking the lobby right now.
There are no written public comments.
Okay.
And I see there is no one on the phone.
And nobody in the audience?
Okay then, please open the voting system. Okay, thank you. Vote is. Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you. good to see a unanimous vote on that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think we'd like to go back to our PSTA introduction. We thought it would be helpful at the beginning of the year, since we have almost a third of our PSTA board members who are new or coming back, to give a brief update on what PSTA is doing and ideas for how all the board can get involved. And I just wanted to say, I have been a bus rider myself over the past couple of years, as have, I know, Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Driscoll on occasion. And I've ridden buses to all my county meetings, and that's been fun some days, but but has given me an incredible insight into what people who don't have options, go through on a regular basis, and really the reason that we're here. We're here to provide transportation options for everybody in this community. And I think that PSTA works hard to listen to its riders and to try to make things better for them. We have a bus riders advisory committee that's very strong, that provides input to us on a regular basis. Sometimes before the pandemic, we had this room full of people just waiting to give us input on a variety of issues. And Brad and his team do a great job of responding. I've seen many times when we had staff follow somebody out into the lobby and take down their issue, and it was resolved almost on the spot, and that's pretty incredible. So I wanted to kick off this presentation just to talk about why we're here for our customers and our citizens. And to do that effectively, we need to understand the work of this agency. So I'll now ask Brad and his staff to cover what we're up to before Commissioner Long finishes with her presentation. Brad?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Gerard. Hopefully, after this pandemic gets over, I'll be back on the bus too. It is great to see so many new board members here. Today, we have a third of the board is having its first meeting, but actually, as Chair Gerard mentioned, 2 of our new board members, Commissioners Peters and Flowers, were on PSTA before, so welcome back from after maybe about a decade, or at least a decade ago. And so I was thinking about giving this presentation and, maybe be more applicable if Commissioner Seal, because her father was involved with PSTA, but this is not your father's PSTA anymore. I think you'll find it quite a bit different. And the 3 areas that I think are most different and we've changed the most over the past, say, 10 years is we are a lot more data-driven. We have a national reputation for innovation, and we are very engaged with the community as much as we possibly can be. If I've got a great bunch of staff that support me all over the place, and you're going to get to meet those folks over time, but I just picked 2 of my superstars, Miss Debbie Leas and our Chief Financial Officer, who's going to talk to you about how we're data-driven, and then Al Burns, our procurement director, kind of a celebrity on the Finance Committee's agenda usually, will back her up. So Debbie, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Brad. Next slide. Thank you. Yeah, don't you just love this photo? This is some of my team in the finance division, and we have won a number of awards over the last 6 years. Matter of fact, late yesterday afternoon, I received word that we won another award. It's called the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from GFOA, and this is for our comprehensive annual financial report from last year for 2019. So congratulations to Julie Lupus and all the staff who helped contribute to that. But it is not just the finance team that is data-driven, but the whole organization. Since Brad joined PSTA in 2012, we have been part of the American Bus Benchmarking Group, the ABBG. Over time, you'll hear a lot about that group. It's one of my favorites. And with ABBG, we have started comparing ourselves to similar transit agencies across the country, and not just those in the Tampa Bay region. And this has definitely helped to turn PSTA around. We're continually finding ways to find more efficiencies and to continually improve, and you'll always hear me talk about saving money. But matter of fact, we are so focused on data-driven decisions. We are proud of our commitment to our PSTA performance scorecard that you heard Cassandra talk about earlier. And we have been doing that since 2018. For those of you in the boardroom, if you take a look at the back wall opposite of the dais, you will see a huge mural on the wall depicting this. So really, from the board and Brad to every employee, every bus driver, performance measurement keeps us all moving in the same direction. Now, one of the areas that has had significant and continuous improvement is our procurement department. And our procurement director, Al Burns, will talk about the key changes he has made since coming to PSTA, and I am grateful for the entire procurement team every day. With that, I'll say, Al, take it away with the next slide.
Thank you, Debbie. Good morning, Madam Chair. Al Burns, your procurement director, and I would like to welcome all the new board members. Once again, my name is Al Burns, and I am your highly motivated procurement director for PSTA. First off, I want to thank Brad, our CEO, and Debbie for allowing me the opportunity to lead the procurement department over the course of the last few years. In the past years, procurement was a challenging area for the agency. And thanks to my procurement staff, my peers, Henry, Abhishek, the Julies, the Joes, Heathers, everyone. And the bottom line with that is teamwork that has made the department successful. The procurement department prides itself on processes, transparency, compliance, and ethics. And what this has translated to is to more competition. And yes, I'm pleased to say no protests so far. Madam Chair, as you're aware, but I want to also I also want to let the new board members be aware that I act as the agency's DBELO. And what that stands for is I'm the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Liaison Officer. Bottom line, what that means is I'm responsible for the small and minority business participation program. 5 or 6 years ago, this program was virtually non-existent. But Madam Chair, I am so motivated and so excited to inform you now that currently we have over $5 million worth of contracts, either on the prime or subcontractor level, that is currently active and being supported by small and minority businesses, all located here in the state of Florida. Additionally, we have a DBE goal of 7.1% and are currently tracking at a 7.9% DBE goal. All this couldn't have been done, all this couldn't have been accomplished without Brad's leadership and the entire PSTA staff support and, yes, teamwork. I'd like to turn it over to Brad.
Thank you, Al. Yes, I think you're the number 2 most motivated person besides Commissioner Shiraki.
Right.
So again, one of the other things that's really a big difference now is something that we're very, very proud of, our national and maybe even international reputation for innovation. PSTA really is moving very rapidly beyond the normal bus company to becoming what we call a mobility manager. We were the very first transit system to partner with Uber. And I think right now we're the only transportation entity that actually has contracts with both Uber and Lyft at the same time, because they're kind of mortal enemies out there in the business world. But we figured out a way to make them work together, to be part of a network of transportation options. And how do we do that? I think it's because we're always open to new ideas or new ways of doing business, whether that's with autonomous vehicles like we have down in St. Petersburg, or even most recently, when the Clearwater Ferry came to Commissioner Long and then asked if we could help partner with them, we built that from just working with one ferry operator to the entire county, working with Hubbard's Marina and even the Cross Bay Ferry with the city of St. Petersburg on maybe waterborne transportation being part of our network. It's all part of the idea that it's not just a one-size-fits-all, like Commissioner Fedovich was saying, maybe smaller vehicles in some areas, maybe different kinds of vehicles. That's clearly part of what I think you'll see coming on your agendas. So again, how can board members, what is the best way for board members to really get engaged with PSTA? A good board member is an engaged board member. And I know, and I think you know, especially with this pandemic and us being all around the room here, this is not the maybe easiest way to communicate with each other and to learn more about all the things that are going on. This is obviously required to attend the monthly meetings, and then thank you all for volunteering and serving on our different smaller, our other committees. That's very important work that we do. It's easier at the committee level with only 5 to, I think, have a better dialogue and to learn. But also what's important, just as important, is coming out with us, coming out with me into the community. Either I'll ride the bus with you. I love riding the bus, so I will ride the bus with any of you. You can see on the picture, on the screen, go back one slide, please. You can see our board members with our Feeding Tampa Bay, where we had, feeding, helping people get food at our transit center. And people took the bus to come there. You can see that everybody's helping out there, all those board members. And then out in the community, I try to have ribbon cuttings at least once a month or some kind of event like that, because I think that shows how we're making an economic benefit to our community, like we did with our Sunrunner event. The final area, again, coming to the meetings, getting out in the community, coming to the PSTA events out in the community, and then the third area I think really makes awesome board members is joining me on with our legislative advocacy. As Commissioner Peters, a state representative recently, can certainly say, it's very helpful. She may be as excited to see me, but not so much. What legislators want to see is you, the board members. They know that I'm going to come and talk about buses and needing money for new things, but they want to hear from the community, from board members who represent what the community thinks. And whether that's in Tallahassee, or Washington, D.C., or even here locally in the district offices. I'm going to be sending you all an email. We're going to try a virtual Tallahassee visit coming up in about a week. And I'll send an email to you at different times when our lobbyists are setting up Zoom, like 20-minute Zoom calls with our state delegation, our representatives in Tallahassee, to go over our priorities with them. And you can do that right from your home. So I think that'll be kind of interesting, an interesting thing to try out. But that is another key way I think board members at least have told me that they can feel really engaged. Now, one of the things, the whole transportation world, and something that Commissioner Long certainly knows more than anyone, is it really is about the relationships that we can build and prosper from that make PSTA stronger. And there's been nobody better than Commissioner Long in building those relationships. So I'd like her to kind of finish off by talking about how PSTA kind of fits into she sees PSTA fitting into the larger world with T-BARDA and Ford Pinellas and even the state and federal levels. Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Brad. I thought it might be.
What?
Yeah, you have to
Turn
turn me
that
on.
one? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
There you go. I thought it might be helpful to give you a little background on PSTA and where we were, where we are, and where we think we're going. And it's interesting to reflect back on the years that I've been on PSTA, because I came onto this agency in my very first year on the county commission. It just happened to be the year that green light was going on our ballot. And you all know how that turned out. It was an abysmal failure. And then afterwards, there were a lot of repercussions from the entire community, from our legislators, from folks all around the state. They just couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. And we learned a lot from that initiative. Mostly, it caused us to really rethink how we were doing things as an agency. And as a result, we created a new strategic plan that the board had never, ever been involved in doing, and we spent a whole day doing that. We came up and revisited, after my first visit with Brad to Tallahassee, to visit with the legislature, it became apparent that when we had been retaining our first legislative group to help us, interestingly enough, there had been no measurements and no objectives put in place into our contract, not only for the outcome, but for the lobbyist folks themselves. And so we've revisited that and brought on a new team, which some of you may have met in your other capacities, but if you haven't, you will very shortly because they're very, very active. And we also, for the first time, embarked on retaining an advocate for us in Washington, D.C. Obviously, a lot of us on this board, it's a big board, and a lot of us are elected officials. Some of us are private citizens. We all have a life, right? So we can't spend our time in Washington, D.C. advocating for the things that matter to us back home. And we were so fortunate to have Harry Glenn, the former chief of staff for former Congressman Young, join our team as a member of the staff of Van Scoyoc, which is a highly respected firm in DC. And for those of you that may have an interest in that and decide to come along with us whenever we can do that again, you'll find it fascinating because trying to maneuver the halls of the Capitol or the House or the Senate is really a gigantic puzzle if you've never been there and don't know your way around. Harry knew all of the shortcuts, and we could go from point A to point Z rather quickly versus if we'd have had to figure that all out on our own. And the beauty of being able to do that is the opportunity that you have to build relationships, not only with our own federal delegation, but with our delegation from Florida, and even across the United States, who serve on the various committees that affect transportation. So it's an education all on its own, and for those of you who like learning and are interested in public policy, it's an unbelievable opportunity. All that to say, I have been very fortunate because of the committee structure that we put in place after the failure of Greenlight. We didn't really have a committee structure at PSTA. We had 3 members on the executive committee, and the first one that I attended, I literally thought I was gonna lose my mind. I won't go into all of the details, but it was quite an eye-opener about how that committee was structured, with no ability to have continuity and no ability to have the opportunity to mentor someone coming onto the committee that was brand new so that they could carry on and have a seamless executive policy group, that would be effective. And so we did that. We expanded that committee. We put in place a legislative committee and all the various committees that you'll learn about as you serve on this board. It really opened up the opportunity for our board members to be involved, to be engaged, and most of all, to learn. By now, because I've been on PSTA so long, I almost feel like I have a PhD in transportation. And let me share with you what I mean by that. I had the opportunity to go to an APTA conference in which I heard Jane Williams, the former transportation administrator, speak to us. And she used the phrase, this is what she said. She said, transit agencies, as we have known them in the past, are transitioning into something that's brand new, that is really focused on the future for our citizens. And she said that in the future, we're not going to be talking about providing buses, just buses. We're going to become mobility integrators and managers. That little phrase stuck in my head. I even wrote it in my notepad on my phone, because in my mind I'm thinking, what in heaven's name is a mobility integrator? I couldn't even begin to fathom what that meant. Boy, oh boy, did we find out though, because now we're not just focused on buses to move our citizens around. We have Ava, the newest citizen in downtown St. Petersburg, which some of you have had the opportunity to ride on. We have a new waterborne transportation group that has been formed through Forward Pinellas, our MPO organization here, that is working on connecting our entire county by water with ferries, the Clearwater Ferry to take care of the northern part of our county, and Hubbard's Marina to take care of the southern part of our county, to go around and hook up with the Tampa Bay Ferry. And the other things that really excite me are the opportunities of air taxis, which you haven't heard about that probably, but as we are involved as PSTA with our counterparts in Hillsborough, and with the memorandum of understanding we have between PSTA and TBARTA, we know that in the not too far distant future, we're going to have air taxis servicing Tampa Bay and our region by a German company who just signed off on a contract to go from Orlando to downtown St. Pete, and Orlando to Tampa. Then they'll come Tampa to downtown St. Pete, and then go downtown St. Pete down to Fort Myers. So that future is so bright. And we had a visit from a gentleman from Dubai at our TBARTA meeting that talked about the different types of air transportation that they are working on and have perfected in Dubai. And it's just like watching the Flintstones to watch his little videos of what they're doing there.
Jetsons.
So, what?
The Jetsons.
Oh, the Jetsons, I'm sorry. What did I say, the Flintstones? Okay, yeah, okay. The Jetsons. Stay tuned and get involved, and please volunteer for one of the committees. I think I know we just recently had a nominating committee, and now all of the members have an opportunity to serve, and I hope you will do so, and I hope that you will enjoy it as much as I do. You know, a lot of our government entities are trying hard to find new ways to provide revenue for transportation, for public transportation, for roads and highways and bridges and all of that sort of thing. And to that end, we did have an opportunity to take a trip to Indianapolis and talk to their planning folks about how they moved forward to put their new referendum in place for transportation dollars. And so a lot to learn. It's an exciting future that we have, and I hope you'll really, really enjoy your time on PS Today. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I took so long, but it's a great story to tell. Very exciting.
It's okay, I love your enthusiasm,
Oh, thank you.
and I hope everybody else has the same level of
Well, I
enthusiasm.
didn't have it when I first started, because I had no idea what I was doing, and quite frankly, it took me right at the beginning of my third year before I really understood all the moving parts. There are a lot of moving parts, right, Brad?
Yes, there are. All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. All right, any questions about all of that? Commissioner Robinson?
Not really a question, but maybe a suggestion, Brad. As new members come on,
Yeah.
sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So as the new members come on, it might be helpful for us to be, and I understand that obviously COVID is an issue right now, but maybe we might be able to meet with some of the department directors to kind of get an idea of what they're doing, what their priorities are, and have an
Yeah.
understanding of what that looks like. I mean, I know you and I have met. Thank you for that, and thank you for, last time I was here, we had a good tour of the facility and kind of gave me an understanding of what your priorities are, but as a organization, I think it might be helpful to have that understanding of the entirety of what's going on, and maybe help us kind of get on the same page with everybody.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, that is a key way to feel more engaged with the community, organization, if you get to know the people that are here, doing everything, because I really don't do anything. And they do it all for me. And, but I think the way other board members have told me that they have gotten those, relationships going is by, you'll see them all the time making presentations at the committees, and then the other events that we do. They'll definitely join. I try to have one-on-ones with all the board members, and oftentimes I will have the key staff of whatever's going on at the time come with me to those. So, yeah, no, I think that's very important to me, is for you to get to know all the great people that work here. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Brad, do you have any reports or upcoming events?
I do.
you'd like to talk
I think first we have our fine legal counsel, Alan Zimmett. He would like you to repeat something, I think. Alan?
Okay.
Yes, Chair Gerard, could you please announce the vote of the board on the procurement of the electric buses? I know it might have appeared on the computer screen.
Oh,
but
okay.
for
Sorry
purposes
about
of
that.
the
I
people listening on Zoom, you
believe
did
it was
announce the vote.
14-0.
Thank you.
Favor.
That was it.
15. Oh, we have 15 now. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. So in your packet, you have our regular reports. At your places, you all should have received a little white bag of gifts. Those you're very special to me, obviously, but those were the exact same gifts that 800 PSTA employees got at Christmas time. I think inside your little bag was a mask, a PSTA mask, like the one I'm wearing, a baseball hat, a PSTA baseball hat, and I think there was a little card in there welcoming you as a board member. In the employees' bags, that was a extra day off in 2021 certificate. Board members don't get a day off, but yeah, so you enjoy those. In your packet, I just did this for my own enjoyment. In your packet, in Granicus, I included a report called from the National Academies of Sciences in Washington, D.C. This is an organization, many of the board members who have been here know that I participate in a number of these research studies, and then I've gotten lots of PSTA employees to participate in different research activities. The National Academies has a transportation research board, and I had the honor of serving on a study over the last several years that just got published this past weekend. It was on this concept that Commissioner Long was just talking about, this idea of new mobility and the public policies recommendations that cities should pass or debate on how cities are supposed to handle Uber and Lyft and bicycles and scooters and how public transportation fits into that framework. It's a lovely 191-page report. It's mandatory homework for every board member to read that. No, just kidding, it's not. It helped me understand sort of where things are going. There's some examples in there that they researched what's going on in Europe. Lots of the things that we're working on here, concepts of where they're successful, what the challenges are across the country, across the world. And so that's a pretty interesting study. As has been mentioned several times, and you have a little flyer at your place, please join me on Monday, 10 o'clock, right here at PSTA, to highlight our growing electric bus fleet. That'll be exciting. And then finally, like I mentioned, on February 9th, it's a Tuesday, we are working right now with our lobbyists in Tallahassee to schedule this virtual Tallahassee Day. Rather than going there during the pandemic, having these scheduled Zoom calls with legislators, and my thought is that I'll send that, the schedule of when those meetings are scheduled during the day, and then invite you to, link in from wherever you are. If you are able to, that would be great. And we'll go over the legislative priorities that the organization has. So that's exciting. Coming up on our agenda, I think Commissioner Albritton mentioned to me before the meeting, but in the next couple of months, we have some of our biggest contracts coming up for renewal. First, our paratransit contract, which is our largest contract at PSTA, is coming up for renewal. Commissioner Cox has been very involved with that. And then, as Commissioner Albritton mentioned to me, we're looking at renewing and extending our Jolly Trolley contract in Clearwater for a longer period of time than we have in the past, for 10 years, to kind of give them stability as one of our partners. So I'm excited about those. Maybe I'm not so excited, but I'm sure it's an exciting thing for all of you. February is when my performance evaluation is done every year by the PSTA board, and we have a new and improved, easier system for doing that the Personnel Committee has been meeting about and we'll discuss. So lots on the agenda here at PSTA. I'm happy that at least we're with masks on together for the first time to get engaged. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any other business to discuss? Yes, Commissioner Schulman. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. And I'm not sure operationally, I know the nominating committee met on January 13th, and I didn't know if those nominations had to come back before the board for final approval. I thought
they were on the consent agenda.
Were they? I apologize.
Okay.
But the other item was the, Chair Gerard, you mentioned that many of us rode the bus, prior to the pandemic, and myself included, stopped riding the bus to make space for essential workers so that we were distancing. And we used to hear from the track committee more regularly at these meetings, and that would be helpful to hear, since we're not on the buses and they are experiencing a different set of circumstances, it would be helpful for us to hear what's going on with our Transit Riders Advisory Committee.
I think that's a good point, and they are still meeting. They're meeting virtually right now still, so they're not taking any actions to recommend things to the board, but getting our report from their chair, I think, would be great. We'll
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else, board members? Okay, then. Oh, Dan, Commissioner Sareki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one comment. I just want to welcome all the new board members. As Janet Long mentioned in her little presentation, when I first joined this board, I was completely confused. I had no idea what the PSTA did. But I just want to say one thing. I really enjoy working with Brad Miller and his team. They are so professional. And I just want to say I welcome all of you, and I look forward to working with each one of you. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help or work with each one of you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Oops, wait. Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
I share with Commissioner Saraki the welcome to everyone who's recently joined us. And we have a lot of great work ahead of us, a lot of great opportunities. And, even through the challenges that we continue to face, given the pandemic and the economic situation that we have. I wanted to just quickly thank Brad and his team for the work that you have been doing to train everyone on how to be part of the solution on the issue of human trafficking. This is something that I've spoken with Brad about recently and connected him with a person in our community who is with a group that's doing a lot of meaningful work to help survivors of human trafficking. And I learned a lot about the lengths that Brad and his team have gone to train bus drivers on how to recognize the signs of human trafficking activity and what to do about it. They are working with the St. Petersburg Police Department as well on this issue, and it just makes me very proud that PSTA is part of the solution. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, so we've been talking about it quite a bit. And I wanted to just take a moment to remind everyone that PSTA has really stepped up in being part of the solution on this horrific crime. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Albritton.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the welcome to all the new board members. And just give you an update on Clearwater's Intermodal Center. I know we're going to be talking about it as an action item next meeting, but we are moving along with that, and we're hoping that we can get some federal funding. So we're trying to garner a lot of support in Clearwater to make that happen for the actual project. Just wanted to say that Clearwater's still very interested in AVA, so when we get funding for that, we'd really like to have that come to Clearwater. I know we're kind of waiting to see what MLB is going to do in Dunedin, whether they're going to have people attend for that, but if that doesn't work out, we're getting ready to have that on Clearwater Beach during spring, if possible. And then, of course, the Jolly Trolley, Brad mentioned that. We're building a new facility for the Jolly Trolley. They're actually hoping to break ground on that this summer in June or July. So they are looking forward to having some information or having some news on their 10-year contract. They're excited about that. And I know we're not talking about that probably till April, but I was going to see if we could maybe do an MOU or something to them to say, hey, we're actually talking about it, so their board member can move forward with their groundbreaking this summer. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, hope to see you all on Monday at 10 a.m. here at PSTA for the electric bus unveiling. And then our next meeting of the PSTA board will be Wednesday, February 24th at 9 o'clock right here. We are adjourned.
Good job, Madam Chair, for your first
Great
meeting.
job, yes.
Fantastic.
That was great.
Great job, Commissioner.
40.
You handled the microphone thing definitely. Good job. Yeah, and you can tighten them too.
Yeah, but the thing is,
I'm surprised no one went through like how to use that finger.
Well, they did, but I forgot. It's like I was pressing the wrong button for one thing. And
goes in your mouth and
Oh, happens to the best of us.
trying to get rid of them by